Hey there, welcome to this Notion tutorial for Notion newbies. If you're fresh to Notion or have recently started using Notion, this tutorial is for you. I'll be covering how to create an account, when to pick which Notion plan. Then I'll start explaining the interface, Notion's block system, how to create databases, properties, dashboards, filters, and at the end I will give you a tip on what to do next. If you watch this video in the near future, I may have added new in-depth videos to the channel. And be sure to look for in the information box popping up left or right corner when a matching video is available, or check out the pinned comment section where I will list those more in-depth videos as well as my newest freebie. In the description of this video, you'll find the chapters to this video so that you can jump through the topics if you want to, or even if you want to watch this video over a certain time, you can come back to it and pick up where you have left off. So let's get started. So let's hop on to notion.com and please click to create a new Notion account by clicking top right corner, get Notion free. Some of the reason why you may want to switch to a paid plan, for example, switching from free to plus plan, is that in the plus plan you have unlimited automations and unlimited charts, whereas in the free plan you cannot create any automations and charts are only limited to one chart overall, regardless of how many databases you have. What I also find important to know is that the sooner you add another member to your free account, and I mean member, someone who has access to more than one page, and you organize their access with access rights management, then you will run into a sort of hidden block limitation in the background, which will be removed once you switch to a paid plan. And also, if you plan on using Notion quite intensively, a 7-day page history might not be enough for you, because you simply won't remember in the future why you have changed something, and it will be difficult to sort of reconstruct changes you've made. Once you switch to a plus plan, you have a minimum of, or you have a 30-day page history. So the deciding factor for you is, for the beginning, I would start with a free plan and then see how much or how far it goes. If you are planning or have purchased a template from another creator and it contains automations and you would like to add your own automations or change the existing automations, you will not be able to do this in the free plan. So that's why I do recommend sooner or later to switch to a plus plan. Okay, so then let's get started by creating a new Notion account. I'll have prepared an email address and I will enter a password in a second. Let me fetch this code quickly and then enter it here. And then let's create the account. So please enter a name if you feel fancy. I do recommend adding a image, especially if you're working with others, and also when you will be invited to other people's workspaces, then it's really handy to see people's accounts or people commenting on a page, and seeing their images makes it much easier to sort of recognize whose comment it is. Then let's enter a password. And then let's continue. Here, the first decision to take is how you want to use Notion for. Depending on your selection, certain templates will be prepared. And then if you're planning to use it on your own, please select the option to the right. If you're a solopreneur and are planning to work with others, I would still select on my own, because with my team, other templates will be installed. They are much more focused, or the setup is much more focused on bigger team usage, and it will also prompt you to add members. And if you're on a free plan, you will then run into the limitation of blocks, as previously mentioned. So the best thing is start on my own. You can always upgrade it. So going upwards is much easier. That's what I'm trying to say here. Then just describe who you are, and then the other information. And then here you can start with some pre-installed templates. One thing to note with templates is that they are great as a starting ground and as an inspirational resource of understanding what's possible with Notion. But a template is never a system. A system is something is a construct of a structure that you have in Notion, but also you know how to use it best, and you know the tool really well. So this is a reason why I'm sort of a bit careful with installing too many templates, because in my consulting practice, I've seen too many workspaces overloaded with templates that have not created a cohesive system, because the system is always really personal and also very company specific. But if you want to have some inspiration, then please go ahead and pick some templates as an inspiration, and Notion will install these for you. Once you selected your templates, choose to go with the free plan. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, I have my private section here and a Teamspace section with these templates pre-installed. And now Notion is prompting me to select which properties I would like to have included. You can go ahead and choose to customize it further, or then just ignore it and move it to the trash. And this getting started page is always coming along as well. If you do not feel like having it, just go ahead and delete it. So one thing I would like to point out already is that we have here sections in the navigation bar which form the entire workspace. Traditionally, it's divided by private and Teamspaces. The soon you share a page by clicking here on the share button and invite people over as guests, this private section will be expanded with a new section called shared, and this page will be moved over there. And then you can organize those sections as you please. Yeah, I do recommend using Teamspaces rather than private sections, because whenever you duplicate a template from a creator, by default it selects the private section, or I do recommend duplicating new pages into your private section, and it could mean over time that this section, the private section, becomes really crowded and it will be difficult to manage. So I would recommend using the private section really sparse, and always use the Teamspace as the default. Teamspace makes it also easy to sort of separate information based on roles or functionalities, such as you want to have a Teamspace just for the marketing team, or you invite freelancers as guests and you want to have them only invited to the marketing Teamspace, and then you can do that. And I do feel that this makes it a bit easier to manage and to also secure or assure that no accidental oversharing is happening. So once you have your workspace, you can either create other workspaces or be invited to other workspaces. One thing to know with Notion is that a workspace does need at least one email address. But this email address isn't bound to that workspace. It can be allocated to different workspaces, and within these workspaces can even have different roles, such as being a member or a guest. So whenever you are invited or create a new workspace, you can toggle between those workspaces by clicking here at the top right corner, and then you'll see other workspaces listed up here. If you want to create an additional workspace, go here and click on the three dotted menu and choose Create Workspace. Next, let's familiarize ourselves with the interface of Notion. On the right-hand side, this gray area is the navigation bar, which consists of here the toggle of the workspace, then a search area. If you have Notion AI, you can start it or kick it off like this if you want to. If you are on a free plan, I think there are some tokens or AI tokens included, and once they're used up, they're gone. The homepage is where you could organize your home if you want to, and then we have the Teamspaces, the private space, and if you have pages shared with someone else, you will have this shown as well. Let me quickly do here an invite with another email address of mine. And then let's see how this looks like. So I'll invite myself with another email address to my new Notion workspace. And as you can see, I have here now 3 sections: shared, private, Teamspaces, and you can move them around as you please. Mostly by default, I have Teamspaces on top and then shared and private. Most of the time I hardly have anything in shared pages because I tend to organize information and access in different Teamspaces and then add new guests on a per page basis on a Teamspace. And I do recommend as well that if you buy a template from someone else or duplicate any Notion pages into your workspace, please add them to your private section. Then be pretty diligent in tidying it up, because I've seen workspaces with loads of pages in the private section, and private really means only you can have access to it. No one else can access this information. Then here we have the settings, which I come to in a second. Then here, which is pretty neat, you don't have to go to Notion's website to access the template library, which is created by Notion itself, but also by creators, and some of them are pretty famous creators. And then trash is really handy if you've deleted a page somewhere and you want to recover it. There you'll be able to find your pages. Let me quickly do here a duplication of that page and then delete this one. And then let's see how this looks like. And here you can see these are the pages that I've previously deleted. And what's also handy is that you can specifically search where something has been deleted. And then here on the top we have a breadcrumb. This one is currently pretty flat, but if we type here and create a new page, I just call it demo page, you can see a breadcrumb is created. What also I see with a lot of people doing is that they sort of use the navigation bar, like the top level of a Google Drive or a filing cabinet, and then untoggle this. I do not recommend this because if you have content in there like this, you won't see it. But if you add another page, you'll see that. Let me have this here open. You see the page. But if you create a database, this one will be visible as well. And then let's just create here a demo database. If I untoggle this, I see the demo database as well. And if I create here a new top page, like so, let's move it here to the top, I can embed a linked view of that database. And if I open like this, you can see that here is the original database and here's only the view of it. From a user perspective, if you're fairly new and you create a lot of databases and pages, this might become really hard to navigate. So I do recommend not to do that, and always stay here on the top level of the pages and design a layout that is sort of like an app that sort of it naturally helps you start to go from a top level perspective and move further down and down and down. If you have, for example, pages that you frequently use and you do not feel like always clicking through the entire structure down, you can go also ahead and let's do here a page again. And then let's just call this page purple. So instead of always trying to do these clicks in order to get to the relevant page, you can also favor important pages by clicking here at the right top corner, and then you will see you'll get a new section added here. And I like this a lot, and I highly recommend that you also use this favoring option, because you can have sort of like a temporary navigation here. You can organize it as you please, and also unfavorite if something doesn't or if something that isn't as important anymore as you thought. So I personally mainly use favorite pages as my starting point of my work, and everything sort of evolves around those favorite pages. So that means I do not have to always navigate everything through, and I get rid of this endless clickery, as you can say, when compared to a filing cabinet, like in a drive. Also, what's really handy is that when you go to settings, you can define that by default the top page of your Notion workspace will be opened by when you open your Notion. So instead of opening the last visited page, you can select the top page in the sidebar, and that means per se you could have here this page that you always want to have when you start your day in the morning be visible straight away, and you don't have to search for it. So treat it as like an entry portal for you for getting ready for your work. So let's go back into settings again. If you feel like having a dark mode all the time, go ahead and switch it, or have it set to your system. I'm team light mode, so everyone has their own preference. If you are a non-English speaker, you can have here a selection of languages that might be easier for you to use. If you are in the rest of the world, and instead of America, you might want to start your week here on a Monday, like I do. And what's pretty handy, having the time zone set automatically to your location. That's especially handy when you travel a lot and you work from a laptop. So please go ahead and choose that. Then what other settings do I recommend in the beginning? Let me go through. I also would highly recommend that you activate your notifications. By default, they seem to be activated straight away. This is really handy, especially the one with email notification. That one is especially handy if you're not working a lot in Notion and you working with others in other Notion workspaces. So you'll get a notification if you're being tagged in a comment, for example. Then general section, here you could rename your workspace, add here an icon for your workspace that's different than the icon that you can add here for yourself. I do recommend adding a photo for you. That's really practical when it comes to commenting on another person's page. It's easier to sort of distinguish who has commented it what, because you see the photo of a person. So speaking of image, I would really recommend using a photograph instead of a icon, because it's just easier for us to recognize people's faces than anything else. Here you've got a directory of the people that have access to your workspace, either as member, and soon you have here a second member, a test phase starts, and Notion is prompting you, I think after 30 days, to switch to a paid plan if you are on a free plan. And members are all paid individual, whereas with guests, they are free, but the disadvantage with the guest is that you only can invite them on a per page basis. Of course, you can give access to several pages for a guest, but this is a manual process and it's not really scalable if you have a lot of people having access to it. And with members, you have the advantage of building groups here, and then define what kind of access rights those groups have, and then you just add members once to those groups, and then you just manage and maintain the members' access to the groups, and you do not need to have the entire access rights management at all anymore. So you do it once and then just assign people to the groups. Teamspaces, here you could create additional Teamspaces, or you could also do that here if you want to. In the beginning, that's pretty irrelevant or of really low importance. Then security, I think as of now, with this tutorial, is not as of important. Then if you later feel like creating a web page with Notion, then this section comes in place. This one is pretty cute. If you have a branded emoji, you can upload it and have it accessible throughout your workspace. Okay, so this is the main bit here for the navigation bar. On the left, we have here the breadcrumb, and then here on the top right corner we have another menu. One is here divided for the option to share a page and invite others, depending on how you. Let me do here a demo. You can select here what kind of access rights they have and define this, or if you feel like creating a page and you want to share it with the world, you can hit publish and then decide if this page should be duplicatable for others or not. What's also really handy is with the paid plan, you have an option to define how long this page is accessible to the public. I find it's pretty neat, especially if you submit proposals to potential clients. You can automatically define when this goes offline, so you do not have to remember yourself to take it offline again. Coming now to the third element of the interface of Notion, the three-dotted menu here to the top right. What I would like to point out here is the updates and analytics sections and the version history. And I feel that those two are heavily underutilized with clients that I have, because the updates and analytics page shows you on a pretty granular level what kind of changes were happening on the particular page, regardless if it's a doc style page or a database page. And you can also see here the usage as a chart on what kind of traffic were happening on that particular page. But I think this one is really gold, because you can go back, hover over it, and get a timestamp on when something has happened and by whom it was done. So you could track everything backwards. And the tracking backwards really depends on how much history or page history you have. Is dependent on your selected plan. So on the free plan, you've got 7 days, on the plus plan, 30 days, on the business plan, 90 days, and on the enterprise plan, if I recall this correctly, it's unlimited. And then the other option that I would like to show you is the version history, which allows you to restore a previous version and go back in time and reinstall a old version. Mind you that all changes that happened in the meantime will be lost. So even if you had intended changes, these will be gone, of course. So now let's look at how to create pages in Notion. There are 3 ways you can create new pages. One would be to click here, create new page within the Teamspace or private section or shared section by clicking here on add page, or then here directly within a page, such as here with the top page, and just name it new page, for example, and we would have it here. And then the fourth option would be with the keyboard shortcut, and then type page, hit enter, and you can create a second page. And then let's go back. And as you can see, I'm using here the shortcuts to go back and forward, and I highly recommend memorizing these because they are such a time saver. So these are the 4 ways of creating a new page in Notion. And then there's a trick. If you know that you're going to create a lot of pages at once, you could do this in a very efficient way. So instead of doing / type page, then being in the new page and needing to enter the title and then go back, you can do it here all together and just do text sections like this. and then using the turn into function, and then just call it create a page like this. And then there's even a more advanced version to this where you, sorry, let's go back, let's undo this. And then, so instead of just creating pages from a text block, we could start with doing toggles. Where's the toggle? Where's the toggle? I'm not seeing it here. So you could already prepare page titles, but as well the content. And then you could type here some content text. And then select these toggles and then turn these into a page. And when we open one of these pages, we have the text we've previously prepared. So this is a super efficient trick or a process of creating new pages without having a lot of clicks going forth and backwards. So now let's talk about databases. Databases and linked views are, in my opinion, the superpower of Notion. Other systems also allow to create databases, but not in a such understandable way. The other tools allow you to program or build databases, but it's a much more abstract environment, whereas Notion has this sort of document style feel to it. So in order to get the most out of Notion, I highly recommend you start using databases. And the main principle behind the database is that you put the same things into one bucket, and then in order to mark the nuances of something, you use additional information such as a select property. So for example, you have a wardrobe with a lot of clothes in it. You could create for each item a record, such as blouse or trousers or shirt, and then have a select property defining the size or defining the color of it, or if it's for summer or winter season. So you would have only one database with all the items in it, and with select properties you will be able to categorize them even further. And the same would be, for example, if you have one wardrobe for the entire family, you could enter all the shirts for your spouse, the shirts for your firstborn, and then the shirts for the secondborn, and then allocate it to the respective person. So this is just an idea on the principle of how to organize information in a database. Data or records in a database can be viewed from a original database or from a linked view. Previously, I've already showed you how a linked database view looks like. What the main differentiator between original databases and linked view databases are is that linked database views allow you to look at a very specific way into the records. So what I do recommend you do is that when you create databases, is that you store them somewhere, but you work on linked database views because it allows you to create very focused dashboards. Dashboards meaning sort of working environments which are process oriented or very need oriented. The dashboard allows you to have a really narrow view on what you currently need and ignore everything else and sort of manage the information overload to not happening at all. Show you how to do a linked or dashboard here. Let's create an empty one and call it dashboard. And I recommend when you create a dashboard to switch to a full width so that you can leverage the entire width of a page. And unless you're working in a document style environment, maybe you're brainstorming or writing a brief, then maybe it's more sensible to have the normal view to remind you that you are in a Word document environment. But let me switch back. So let's embed the database that we've previously created. And what's nice is that you could create here a column and then give it a title maybe, and then move this linked view over here and then narrow the column again. And then you could add more information here below. And what's nice is that you are not limited to this table view. You could change this and select another layout, because some people love having boards, other when you're more project oriented, you maybe want to have a top perspective on what's happening in the project and what's next, or you love having a calendar, which you also can switch, by the way, for month to week if you like that. And you could have a very minimalistic view on just seeing a list or a gallery, which is nice if you are a visual person, or you have maybe a mood board that is heavy image oriented, so you could display an image here in the gallery view. Let me show you how that looks like. Here in the gallery or the layout section, you can define what content should be shown in the preview, and here we could just type something or embed an image. And if the image is added here, let me fetch one for you. So I've embedded a random image from Unsplash, so it's currently uploading here. And once it's uploaded, we will see it here in the preview. Currently we just see the text, now we see the image. And that's really nice if you love having a visual aid. You can even create your own imageries with text, for example, and also change here the size of the cards, like so, or then even large. So depending on your needs, you can adjust this. And if you are on a paid plan, you can have a database or a chart of the database. If you're on the free plan, the first chart is free and every other chart can only be activated, or can only be created once you are on the paid plan. So that's really the nice thing here, is that you're not limited to a particular view, and you're not limited to views that you have previously created here on the original database, because over time here you might end having a lot of views and it might look very crowded over time, and it becomes difficult to manage. But if you create a dashboard and embed a linked view, you can have here very or highly specific views and add here additional views of databases. And what I find super cool with linked database views is that not only can I add here additional views of the same database like this one, but I can add a view of any other database that is in my workspace. So this allows me to have different databases neatly organized behind these tabs and have a highly specific filter view depending on my current needs of that particular workflow. So let's talk about properties. As you can see here, we have already 3 properties in that database. By default, every database needs to have at least a name property, which cannot be, or titled property, which cannot be deleted. It's a must-have property in a database. And when we open this, we see here the 3 properties listed already, and we can add here additional properties as we please. So one thing to consider is that how much information do you want to put in a property versus a page content? Everything that you put into a property has a much higher potential of allowing you to filter according it or for it. And that's especially true if you have select or multi-select properties, because this will provide you the possibility to filter here for these properties, whereas with page content you cannot perform a structured search. So it's a balancing act to figure out what are the informations that I need in a database that will later allow me to filter this for it, and which are additional information that will vary a lot, and I very likely will not need to later have a structured search for this enabled. Other option that's relatively new is that you could use this AI autofill, provided that you are on the paid plan and have a Notion AI subscription activated, because the nice thing is, especially with summary, it allows you to see here on top level what kind of information are within that page without needing to open several records to find the right information. Then formula is an entire own use case in itself, and it would need an entire own course. But with formula, there's so much possible that you could display information from another database that is linked to that is linked already. You could, depending on certain entries in the other properties, create a formula that provides you a status message, or have a quality check, provided that you want certain information to always be filled in. So there are a lot of things that you can do with formulas. So adding a new property can be done here, or you could do it here as well by, for example, just selecting, hitting here the plus sign and adding here new properties like this. And if you feel like it becomes crowded, you can go here on the 3-dotted menu of the linked view, hit properties, and then hide the properties that you feel are not necessary. So this allows you to customize your view depending on your needs, and they're not deleted, they're just hidden. So whenever your need changes, you can adapt and add a new property or exchange this. Or an alternative would be, if you have just one properties that you would like to hide, you right click on the property name and then hide it like this. What's also a cool feature is when you have a lot of properties and you really need those, and then over time the width becomes really, really wide. And if you, by the way, want to scroll horizontally, I'm typing the shift case and scroll with the mouse, and this way I can move horizontally. So when you have a lot of properties and you want to keep them but do not want to miss, for example, the first column, you can right click this and freeze the column so it stays, as you maybe are familiar with using this in an Excel spreadsheet. Thanks for watching the video. That was it. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to my channel. And I have a last tip for you what to do next. Ideally, you have a very concrete project, and what I've seen in my consulting practice, the best way to get started with Notion and really understand Notion is to do a knowledge management system by looking at your existing data, migrating it over, and through the migration you will notice what kind of structure you need in your database so that finding information later in the future will become much easier. If you know that you do not feel like figuring everything out, or after a time you've noticed that you still spend too much time searching for information, it's maybe time to reach out, and I'm happy to talk with you. Have a lovely day. Bye.